Good morning, guys. So let's start. So this is our agenda today. Okay, so we're gonna go over that problem. Um, I think this is right here. Minimum desks. Okay. So let me quickly do that. So this is a good example of working out few examples, guys. Okay. Oh, there's an echo, right? I think uh, I think the speaker is actually also playing my voice. Yeah. So let me turn off that. Yeah, I heard because this is a microphone. It's actually picking up from and it's actually playing the volume over there as well. No, I actually turned off the speaker, so now it's not there. Yeah. So okay, um, so and you can see that this we'll see this problem, um, and then you'll have to basically cover all the scenarios, and then you basically have to work out the few example that can cover all scenarios possible. Okay, so let's see. So what? But before that, what is the input? Input in this problem? Yeah, so number of students, right? So number of students, right? Um, okay, the output, yeah, yeah. So number of desks, right? So so minimum number of desks, right? That's the output. Okay, all right. So I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. All right. So are there any restrictions? Yeah. And then this is don't use strings. Okay. All right. So basically, in this problem, there are so one this sits maximum number of students. Okay. So number of students is an integer, right? And um, the total number of students in a class also an integer, right? And then uh, number of disks should be also an integer, right? Because there cannot be a fraction of a disk, right? So um, so basically in this problem, right, so we basically have to calculate this minimum number of disks by dividing it, right? So let's do that first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. Okay, so and then do some um, understanding, and then you can see that you can actually do so in coding as well. Okay, so like you don't have to work out in English an example, you can do something in coding as well. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to print. Okay, all right, I'm going to casually print, right, the number of students. So I'm going to input 27 over here, okay, and basically that divided by 4, okay. So let me add print, okay. Okay, so what should I, what I am getting? 6.75. And can that be the answer? No, right? Because this number of disks cannot be a fractional number, right? It's got to be an integer, right? So, all right, so that's okay. What can we do then? What should we do then? Rounded up to 7, right? So that's the minimum number, right? All right, so we have to round this up, okay. So let's now print the number for 24, okay. So we'll get 6, right? And for this one, we don't have to round up. We get 6, right? So do we have other scenarios in here? What is the other scenario? Well, that we already covered, right? Yeah, so we covered both, right? So there are only two scenarios here, guys, okay. So I mean, if you think about the domain of the input, right, and then what is the domain of the input here? It's a number of students, right? It should be an integer. What should be the minimum number? I'd say 0. No student enrolled, the class is empty. So 0. There cannot be negative ones, right? Because, well, it's actually a positive number of students is something positive integer, right? So I mean, you can think of, okay, so there we don't know the upper limit. Well, it may be something like, maximum, let's say, you know class is a big class, there's 1,000 students. Can be, right? I mean, but it's not a kindergarten. Usually it's not like that, right? But we can clearly see it cannot be -1, right? So the 0 is the minimum, right? So this is a good example of, working out as many examples, as many scenarios, right? So one scenario is, the number is not divisible, evenly divisible by 4. We covered that in the first example. And the other scenario is the number of students is evenly divisible by 4, which is 24 by 4, right? Like something like that. So when you do these kind of example workouts, make sure you cover all scenarios. Like, let's say there are 4 scenarios in your problem, you got to have at least 4 examples workout for covering all those 4 scenarios. Okay, so make sure to do that. Otherwise, there's a good chance that you may miss a scenario, and then now your problem solution cannot cover that scenario. Okay, all right. And also remember that we haven't learned if else in this class yet. So that means you pretty much you don't know how to use if else in this problem. Okay, so you can use that as well. Okay, so then how do we solve this? How do we generally solve any like any possible scenario in our problem? What can we use here? What is what are what any I mean, what can we try? Anything that we know already here? Anyone? So we cannot use direct division because it's a result in a fraction number. Yes. Yeah, ceiling function, right? So let's try that. Okay, so let's try that. So I'm gonna import math module on the top. Okay, all right, and then right here, so let's try out print. So I'm gonna basically pretty much do it for both. So math dot ceiling function, and simply pass that into ceiling, right? And you can see that now I got 7, right, which is the expected one. But if I pass the same for the evenly divisible one, right, and right 6 here, and then you can see that I got 6 still, because it's already at the ceiling, right? So that basically the ceiling function, if it is a integer, right, and then you don't have to add 1, this is already at the ceiling, okay? And you can see that, right, it also returns an integer, right? See here, right? So this is 6.75, you got 7, but here it's 6.0, but it's 6 here, right? So that means this this rounding function, they return actually integers, okay? All right, so it looks like this single one works for both scenarios, which are the sole scenarios in the problem that we have to cover. So that means we can actually use this as the general solution, right? So let's write our plan then, okay? So before that, so the match is basically, we'll use maths. We actually covered this topic on Tuesday, right? The math module, right? So I would say math module ceil function, okay? And then over here in the plan, right? Step 1, input. So we're going to input this one, the out, basically the output, basically return. Step 2, return simply, right? You can simply return this value, right? So math, and it's okay, you can directly write the code version of it as well. This is fine. And by 4, okay? All right. All right, so let's translate this plan. Def, I would say calculate the minimum number of desks, and calculate minimum desks, okay? And the input is this one. All right, now returns. It's good to start always with returns if your function returning, okay? Returns the minimum number of desks, right? So I'm going to copy that from here. Number of desks, required for this. So if your function has an input, guys, make sure it has some reference to that in your docstring, okay? All right, translation of step 2, basically you can copy paste this one simply, okay? All right. All right, so let's try to use it. So I'm gonna print. All right, so this should give me 7, okay? And if I try something else, like let's try 35 here, its answer should be 9, right? Okay. All right. Any question on this one? All right. So now the improvement, right? All right. Make the desk capacity also a variable. So basically you can see that, right? Our function, this solution work only for this disk, right? Particular disk, which it can only supports seats 4 students. So it's, I would say in regards to that number, this is too special, right? I cannot use this with any type of disk, right? I cannot use this function for disk that supports 2 students, right? So idea is to make it more general, but still the same context of the solution, right? Finding minimum disk. So we can actually make that also general by making it as an input to our function. Okay. So let's do that over here. Okay. So I'm going to write the second function. Okay. Stu. It also takes the capacity as an input. Okay. And disk capacity, right? So I would say disk capacity, and then problem also asks make that all capacity default to 4, right? So that means we make it a default parameter 4. Okay. All right. And then over here, instead of this 4, we use that. Okay. Okay. All right. And then basically we're gonna use this over here. So let's try it again for that. All right. So let's make it like over here to 2. Okay. Oops. Sorry. This should be 2. We're calling 2 function. Right. And you can see I got 14. Right. So because now it's the capacity is 2. I have 27 students. Right. So that means we need 14 disks. Right. And this one basically I'm letting Python take the default value, which is 4. Right. So it's still 9. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's answer those 5 questions. Any question, guys, on this? Yeah. Okay. So all right. Write a statement other than an assignment statement. What is it? Return statement. Okay. There are 2 over here, right? Write an operator you used and the respective operands. So the operator is division. This operator, right? And then the operands are this one and this one, right? So based on number of operands, what type of operation is this? Based on number of operands? Yeah, this division is a binary operator, right? Okay, so write a keyword type token you use in your code. Keyword type token. No. Ceiling it's a function. It's a it's a function belong to math module. So it's actually identifier. CEIL is an identifier belongs to math module. It's an identifier type token. Yes, if it's a so keyword, right? If it's a keyword right here at the bottom, def is a keyword right here, right? And return also a keyword. Import on the top also a keyword. So there are 4 here, right? 4 keyword type tokens. Okay. All right. Next one. Write 2 punctuator type tokens. Colon is one. Yes. The pound sign is one, right? And this one also a punctuator. So there are 3, probably 3 here, right? The 3 the doxing type quotation, 3 quotations is a token, a punctuator token, and then the colon is a punctuator, and then this pound marks for the commenting is a punctuator. Is this symbol a punctuator? No, right? It's an operator type token, right? All right. Write a formal parameter you use and then the respective actual parameter of your function. So what is the formal parameter here? Yeah, number of students. And this one also, right? They're both formal parameters or just parameters, right? And then arguments or actual parameters, number of students, and then this 35, right? Those are actual parameters or just arguments. Okay. All right. Okay, before we move on, guys, so any question on this problem? All right, so let's start our lesson then. Yeah, right here. Okay, so we encountered, oh no, not this one, right here. So this is where we supposed to start. We encountered this topic earlier too, right? I think module 1, I guess, right? The Unicode code point, right? So we started with the ASCII, right? And then we found out it's not enough, right? And then we came up with a broader set of representation, right? That is Unicode. But at that time, we wanted from smoothly transferring from ASCII to Unicode. So they included ASCII as a subset of Unicode, right? So, and that's why in both in Unicode and ASCII, right, number 32 as a code point represents space, right? And then 65 represent A, right, in both ASCII and Unicode. Okay, so all right, so so that's basically representing text. So we use Unicode and then the respective. So there's it's an encoding scheme. So unique number assigned to each character uniquely, and then it's basically a standard. Okay, so it's called the Unicode standard. Okay, all right. So and we also I think did encounter this one. So escaping, right? I think week 5 we did something of this, but we can take a look back as well. Okay, so let's say I want to, so I have this um, this path. This is a Windows path. Okay, I want to print it. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go to Colab. All right, and so I'm gonna go over here. I want to print this path. Right. So if we try to do that, okay, so it's a use case, right? I just simply want to print this path, right? And you can see that it's actually not working. Okay, so that didn't work. Okay, so so the reason is basically it's a syntax error, and you can read, and it's kind of not that making sense. But the actual reason is this, right? So the purpose of backslash in coding is something else. All right, so it's basically to mark the next character. So basically it's to escape the next characters. That's the purpose of it. So and then basically it's trying to use that purpose, but it's now okay. So the next character to this backslash is actually a big U, capital U. So now now Python is trying to escape that, but it's not defined. So that's the syntax error. Okay. So again, the purpose of this slash, Python thinks to escape the next character, which is not what we are trying to do, right? So then to fix this basically, right? So let's fix it over here, right? What is it? Yeah. So we have 13, but only like 4 or 5 people attending. So five, right? Yeah. That's good. Thank you. Well, others, I mean, you cannot assume others are not doing well. Some are actually, but they are not attending. Well, remember, I record the lecture and put it out there, right? Some probably watching that as well. But this is supposed to be a face-to-face class. So, thank you guys for attending. I see that all you guys are regulars here. So, and it's supposed to be, but by default, I actually set the class at hybrid. So if anyone can access it as online class, everything is online as well. So you can even watch the recorded lecture as well. So that's one of the reason probably some people are not attending. Yeah. Okay. Which is not recommended though, right? Okay. So anyway, so so basically, so let's do it over here. So let's fix this problem, right? So we're gonna print, okay, and then the solution is basically, oops, the solution is we have to escape the escape mark, okay. So we're gonna basically put one more behind that, okay. All right, so this is gonna solve the problem. Oops. So this is a revisit, guys. We did it in week 5, okay. So let's print. So we can now print the path, okay. But there's an easier solution, right? So you can actually print, what did we call that? We call a name for that. You don't have, see, imagine, like, I have 20 subfolders. The tree is like, there are 20 in the path. So this kind of inconvenience, I'm having to put that manually, right, for every 20 under backslash symbol, right? So there's a way to do that without, what is that? Nope. So what is that? Oh, I'm going to copy paste that again. So let me scroll back to week 5. Okay. So actually, yeah, week 6, 5. I think we did that, right? Didn't we do that over here? Oh, okay. Right here. You can see the solution. The R. So what do we call the row string? So you can actually print the whole path as a row string, and you don't have to put the backslash inside. Okay. So we call it the row string. So we put R in front of the string literal. Okay. All right. So yeah. So that's what we're gonna do over here. Okay. So we put um, R here in front, just outside the quotation. Put R. This means consider this, whatever the string behind, as a row string. So that's what we tell Python. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's a bunch of such symbols, right? So for example, this particular one, right? So I want to have a quotation because it's a quote from someone else. So quotation, right? So, but I still want to use single quotation to make it a string literal. So if I do not do that, if escape this one, it's going to be an error, right? Because I have already one here, right? Then Python think the one behind, right, is a variable which is not defined now. So it's actually would give me, like, if I try to so let's try to print over here and see what we'll get. First without, um, like um, like if we don't use the escaping, right? So we'll probably, yeah. So see that? So now this quotation ends this literal, right? So that means Python think this is a name. So it's probably will give us name error. It's actually a syntax error, yeah. So basically, because I think it's see a name, but there's a um, space in between, right? So it's a syntax error, right? So and basically you have to fix this one, you have to escape the this quotation and this quotation right here. So there are two, right? So let's fix that, and that is actually this, and this will actually print that. You can see that this is the quotation that we wanted to print. Okay. All right. One, and then obviously we talk about the row string as well. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to the next section, style guide. Okay, so guys, this is an important topic, but you still have you have to, like, very carefully read this table. Okay, so I'm going to roughly go over. Okay, so you can see that, right? You can put multiple statements or lines together by separating this, like, with a semicolon, but no one almost never do that in Python. Okay, so please don't do that. Okay. um, Blank line. So if the context of your code is same, do not separate them with empty line. So you can see that context is same because in this line we use X here, right? So these two code lines are belong to each other. So do not put a blank line in between. And then the single space separation. Okay, so um, but again, I don't know why they do that. This C is not a good variable name. So they are promoting good style, but they are also violating the same same place. So this should be centigrade temperature. This should be Fahrenheit temperature, right? But probably, to save space, they may have done it. But again, use expressive naming. Okay. All right, and then substatements, the indentation used properly, right? And then likewise, there's a whole bunch of, right? So these we are taking their descriptive name. See, yeah, they are enforcing it here, but they are violating it here. It's kind of doesn't make sense, right? So I'd probably write to them, don't do that. Yeah. Okay. And then if it's a constant, yeah, they are correctly use all capital letters. Okay. All right. So likewise, um, we don't learn class here in this class, but the class name should start the first letter with like R, and then they are suggesting to use camel case, and then for variables we call snake case, but probably they are following Google's. But I think you still use snake case for class names as well. Okay. Um, so this is one style guide, and this is similar to one. Remember the Python standard is PEP8, PEP8, right? It's Google's own style is kind of similar to that one too. Okay. All right. So line of code typically 100 characters. And if it's go beyond that, then you can actually break it into the next line by using the division symbol, right? All right. So we can actually go for string basics. We can. I'm gonna pause here, guys, and then I'm going to actually explain these two things that during this module. Um, Again, it's because the morning class I'm behind. So so I caught up to one, but today somehow I didn't finish this early, up to section 8.4. So we basically skip this one and start a list actually in that class, because the list knowledge required for today's group assignment. So anyway, so let me go over the two things due in this module. So the one is the wedding buses. So we have it, I think, over here. Yeah, this one. Okay. So this we did a similar assignment to this one, guys. Okay. So all you have to do is um, right. So you have to find, so the this minimum dex one is really close assignment for this one, right? So you have to calculate number of buses required for this wedding, right? So the capacity of the bus is 40, and then you have number of attendees. So you basically need to find how many buses you need, right? So you have to actually submit that. Okay, so you have to include a link in your code. Okay, and then yeah, and then basically you have to embed your code as well. Okay, so and make sure when you input, right, use it something like that. Okay, so you have to use the std in, right, this one, and sorry, this one actually, yeah, std in standard input, and this box, and then you can create your share short link one. Okay, so it will include that one as well. Okay, that's that. And then for the other one, so this one, oh, it's a Cybook. So in this one, you have to format the numeric phone number inputted into that regular format we write phone numbers. Okay, so and that's what we have to do. Okay, okay, so um, like this one, right? So this is the input big number, right, integer. Okay, and then you have to return this. Okay, so there are hints you'll have to use this. Take a look at these hints. Okay, and then you will get marks for docstring. Okay, so 1 point for docstring, and then expressive naming for at the other point. So even though it's marked for 10 points, total 12 you can get, so 2 extra credit. Okay, so over here you have to write your function definition. Okay, and here you have to collect your input, so it's one just input function call. Okay, so do not use the prompt inside. Okay, right. In Cybook Scilabs, we usually don't put the input prompt. Okay, because the test cases are gonna get confused if we do. Okay, so you have to use it like this, just plain like this. Okay, and then you have to replace this line with a call to your function, so you have to print it. Okay, so make sure that, so definition goes here, and use collection of input here. using input function, and then call to your function over here. Okay. All right. So that's what you have to do. All right. And then we did so you have good matches for this one, right? We did the swap first and last is a good match. Reversing a number is a good match for this assignment, right? So all use those all pre-knowledge that you gained, and do a good understanding step by working out a couple of examples. Okay. All right. So that's the lab, and then the next one is this one, the assignment. Okay. So this one, so let me quickly go over the code check. So the test cases are here, guys. Okay, so there are 3 test cases that you have to um, do. Okay, so on that, take a look at the rubric as well. Okay, and the test cases are also mentioned over here, guys. This table. Okay, so this particular assignment, do not use input function, okay, to collect. So you simply have to set those values. Okay, so basically, so there are three test cases. You have to set 3 times those test cases over here, and then this table shows you the test cases. Okay, so there are 2 variables, one here and the other one is here. So you have to set each 2 sets 3 times, each 3 sets 3 times separately, right? So here there will be 3 calls to your function for 3 sets of input data. Okay. All right, and then here make sure to write your plan over here, and then your function definition must go here. Okay, so that's all. Basically this one, right? So this one basically so there's a bunch of hints and advice over here, right? For this one also we did a few good matches. Again, the swap first and last, and then also the reverse number one, and then the minimum disk one also good matches in the sense of the operator that you have to use. Okay, so this one you have to take this year and then make it as the example year, and then take a couple of days and then do an example. Okay, so go to the calendar, right? So go to the calendar and go to January, and then figure out when the day started, right? So we started on day, what is the number? Thursday, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So Thursday is day 4. So this year we started the year with day 4, right? And then pick any number of days, like 31, and you can go to 200 something, and then figure out what day would that be, and then try to figure out a pattern, right? So that pattern is the answer. And then take a look at my hints over here as well. Okay, so you can simply use a spreadsheet to do this workout, because you can line up days from starting day, right? And then group sets of 7 for each week, right? And then put those numbers 0 to 6, 0 to 6, 0 to 6, as many weeks that you want to follow, right? So you can easily use a spreadsheet to make a good understand step for this problem. Okay, so that's that. So let's actually start. So I'm going to start this with, so I'm going to go to the next topic, guys. So we're going to come back to this lesson later. Okay, because for the next topic, sorry, the group assignment, you need list knowledge. That's why. Okay, all right. So I'm going to come back to section 8.5. Okay, all right. So let's begin this topic. Okay, all right. Why we need list? Let's stick with real world, not jet programming, where do we use lists? Give me a couple of examples. Where do we use lists? List of students in this class, let's say, right? So I can refer entire class as a entire group of students, so it's a list of students, as well as I can basically talk about items of that list. Basically they are students, right? Individual students, right? Anyone else? One more example. Hmm? Shopping list, yeah, grocery list, right? Yeah, that's a list as well, right? So um we put down with the things we want to buy, like apples, bread, rice, sugar, and things like that, right? So that's a grocery list, right? And then we can treat the whole list as a single entity, as well as we can pick items to buy from that list as well, right? So, and you can see that this usage and the idea of a list is really prevalent in real world, right? So, well, then basically, since we solve real world problem in coding, the programming language also should support that, right? And then that's the idea of a list in programming. Okay, so pretty much many languages support this, and then Python also, right? So to create a list, this is how you create a list in Python. You use a square bracket, okay, and then separated, basically put items separated by comma in that list, right? All right. So let's actually so try to understand the few key things in the list, or key technical terms. So it's actually a container because it's contain elements, right? So we call them in general a container. Okay. It's also the list is a fundamental data type in Python as well. It's we in general also call them a sequence type. Why it is a sequence? Yeah. So the elements are ordered, right? So that means it's in a sequence, right? So and then ordered, so it's actually an ordered container, and then there are several in Python. So we'll actually learn later that text type, string type is also a sequence. It's a sequence of characters, right? And then we also later learn tuples as a sequence of items as well. Okay, so we'll learn about this mutability later. Okay, so let's write. So I'm gonna actually do it right here. Okay, all right. So let's get I'm gonna dump this. All right. So I'm gonna create a list. Okay. All right, guys. I published this one. Okay. So this is something that you guys can do as well. So this again, this guy is talking about the significance and history, some history and significance of this, like open source code and projects. But don't think that you guys cannot contribute to this. You guys also can. Okay, and then ask me how I can show you actually how you can actually can contribute to a open source project, right? So you don't have to be an engineer solving a bug or anything. You can even volunteer to support the engineer. So that way you also get to know the engineer as well, right? So and then contributing to open source has been one significant way of networking in hiring in in um, in tech actually. Okay, So yeah. All right, so let's preview. So it's still a good non-profit, guys, and but they are actually paying industry rates actually. So they have software engineers, they hire software engineers, and pays the industry rate actually. Yeah, but there are a lot of other, like, volunteers as well working with them. All right, let's continue. So we are continuing this lesson. Okay, so so I'm gonna create a list over here. So let's do it over here. Um, okay, so yeah. All right, so I'm gonna create a list, and let's say it start with like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4. Okay, so we use so we call this in Python, we call this is a literal, because it's a specific data value, right? Since it's a list, this is a list literal. Okay, so this whole thing is a list literal. Okay, and to create a list literal, use actually the syntax notation is use a square bracket to create a list. Okay, so and then basically so so I'm gonna write this. So remember we talk about, okay, so list is a sequence, right? And then each element has its own index, right? So that way of indexing start from left to right. Okay, so let me go to this one. Start from 0 and then 1, and then sequential means they increment by 1. Okay, and then it's ordered means it's also follow that incremental order. Okay, so I think that's that. Yeah. Okay, so in computing, the way that we have designed the computer already, it's starting, the numbering start from 0. Okay, so we usually start numbering from 1, right? But for the computer it start from 0. Okay, so 0. So we call this, so for example, right, if you want to access, right, a list, the first element, which is 9, right, you put 0 here. Okay, all right, and this is called, this square bracket right here is called the index operator. Okay, don't get confused, this is not the index operator, this is the syntax notation of how we actually um, set a list literal, right? So we use square bracket for that, right? So so it's not the operator there. Okay, so but here this is called the index operator. Okay, and then this will return 9. Okay, so to get 4 then, right, so to access 4, so basically it's given this, the question is how do we access each element, right? So for example, to access 4, then we should, so basically to get 4, right? So what do we use over here? What should be the index? 5, right? So 5 here. Okay, all right, that will return 4. Okay, so the fifth index is 4, right? So this one. Okay, all right, so this way of indexing is called, okay, so this way of indexing is called positive indexing. Okay, so it's actually increment by 1 and they are positive numbers. indexing. Okay. Okay. So there's so usually many high level programming languages supports this way of indexing, not just Python. Okay. So and then in Python, there's another way of indexing. We call it negative indexing. And what would that be? Yeah, right to left, right? So you can also start from right to left, right? So, so let me go over here. All right, from right to left. So 0 is already taken, right? So we start from -1, okay, and then go towards left. So it's right to left, and next one is -2, and likewise, right? Likewise, and then we all the come over here. It's actually -6. Okay, all right. So we align this. Okay, so that way of indexing we call negative indexing. Okay, so so that's basically start from rightmost end and then go towards the left. Okay, so that is called negative indexing. Okay, all right. So what is the benefit of negative indexing? Anyone? Yes. Yeah. So let's say you have 1256 elements, but you don't know the length, right? But you still have to access the last item. This will give you the answer, right? But if we rely on only the positive indexing, right, then we need to now calculate the length of it. Okay, because we later on, okay, there's a method to do get that, but you don't have to go that far. You can directly access the last element by the negative indexing. Okay, so that's the so this is, I think this is you can search. This is a Pythonic feature that I think probably Python people first did this. Okay, um, and then also this there's a two ways to access same index same elements, right? So it's good to have options, right? Yes. Um, I my knowledge probably old. So I mean that means like I was teaching Java like until 2022, 2021. So now new version of Java, like they are seemingly trying to catch up with Python. There are some situations. So I don't have any experience after that. So new Java version, I don't have any idea. So new programming languages, but I think like languages like C, Java, and C++, they didn't have the idea of the negative index. But you can Google, yeah. But probably new versions, maybe they are trying to do this like as new features too, probably. So probably new Java version probably have it, yeah. So yeah, all right. So okay, so um, so lists are indexed because they are ordered containers or ordered sequences. Okay, so the one common group of containers that are indexed and ordered are called sequence type. So one is actually the one that we skip, the string type or the text type is a sequence of characters, and list sequence of items, and an in list. So what's the difference between list and text then? So both are sequences, text and list, right? The difference is homogeneous. So basically, text only have characters, right? So only one type. So we call text homogeneous sequence. Contrary to that, list basically can have any type of element. Now you can see over here we have 10, which is an integer, right? And we have ABC, which is text, right? So there's no limit to the types that you can carry in a single list in list. So we call lists are heterogeneous containers. You can have any type of things. Okay? So that's actually the main difference. Okay, and also, and we'll learn later, right? Strings are mutable, and then strings are actually immutable. Okay, so we'll learn that difference later. Okay, so you can create an empty list by just putting nothing in there with just two square brackets. Okay, all right, and then to find the length of a list, you have to use the len function, which we will learn later. I wonder why it's actually, yeah, so right here. Okay, so length of the list, len function give you pretty much len. It's a built-in function, right? So it can actually give you the length of any sequence type in Python, not just list. So if you pass a text in length, it will give you the length of the text. If you pass a list to the length, it will give you the length of the list. Okay, all right, we'll come back to that later more. So yeah, so let's do some example things in a list. Okay, so I'm going to create a list equals, let's say 9 8 7 6 5 and 4. Okay, so I'm going to try out those things that we just did manually. Okay, so I'm going to print, so first I'm going to print the type of it. Okay, so you can print the type. I'm going to first print the list, and then the type of it, and then the type. All right, so I'll print the list, right? So that's the printer list, and then the class, the list type. Okay, all right, and then so let's print index values, right? So list, so print, okay, list, and then the index, let's say 0, and I'm gonna print the last one, index 6. That's 6 or 5. 0 1 2 3 4 5 5, right? Okay, 5. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to print uh, the same two things using negative indexing. So this is going to be negative 6, right? And this is going to be 0, sorry, negative 1. Okay, all right, so that, all right, okay. All right, so let's do one more thing, right? So all right, so how can we find out? So this is basically list. It's a type or a class in Python, right? It's a fundamental data type in Python. How can we find out list operations here? What's available in list class? How can we, what built-in function can we use to find out what's available in list type or list class? Yeah, directory function, right? So print dir, all right? You can simply submit just an empty list, okay, like this, Oh, you can. I think the type name itself would work. So let's try that out as well. Like just list is the type name, right? Let's try. Okay, yeah, it worked, right? And it returns a list of available attributes, all right. And then items are actually they are string literals, right? So each name is in a, literal. See that two quotations, right? Okay. So you can see later on we're gonna find out what these are, like the function like index, insert, pop, right? Those are operations available from list class. Okay. All right. All right, so with that in mind, I think we can do some of these. Let's try to do some of these exercises. All right, so let's do this one, guys. You guys gonna give me the answer. Match the term to the correct definition. Okay, an integer that specifies the position of an element within a list is called index, right? So index, a mutable ordered collection of items that can hold elements of various data types called a list, right? So we will talk about more about mutability later when we learn about strings as well. A data structure that holds and organizes multiple elements, allowing for easy storage and retrieval. It's a container, right? And later on, we will learn tuple as a container, dictionaries as a container as well, right? In addition to list and strings. Okay. An individual item stored within the list called elements. So it's not just for list, right? Any sequence, and there's the idea of element as well. Okay, so for any sequence, like so element of a string going to be character, right? So element of a list can be an item inside a list, and then for tuples as well. Okay, as we learn about accessing elements. Okay, so let's do, yeah, so let's do number 2. Okay, answer the question given the following. So this is a list of three things. Write an expression that sums the first and third element. Oh, we didn't do that actually, right? um, oh, no, write an expression that sums the first and third elements of price. So what should that be? That sums the first and third elements, right? So this should be process, right? First element is what? 0, and then plus. So it's an expression, right? So next one is this. The third element, 2, right? So this. Okay. Let's talk about a list operations on Thursday, guys. Next Tuesday. Okay. So I think that's the last week before spring break, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So let me open the assignment today, guys. This one, okay. This is an interesting one. Um, so this one, from this one, and you actually kind of, I'm exposing you guys to the so I'm giving most of the code you need. Okay, so and then basically you have to click on this link to get the code. So follow this instruction really carefully to solve this problem. Okay, so let me open this one. So you'll basically open this Colab. Okay, and you can see that this is not the total problem. This is not that much of a word problem as well. This is a plotting problem. Okay, but you don't have to rely that heavily on that knowledge, but because I'm giving most of the code, just need to understand, read and understand this code and how it works. That's all. Okay. So for example, I am giving you really expressive names. So this is basically number of rows of plots, right? So if I so run these codes, you'll get this, right? So let's run. Okay. All right. So all right. So that's code. And you can see that this is the first row of the plot, and then second row, third row likewise. Wait a second. Okay. So first row of the plot, yeah, and yeah, and the second row likewise. In the first row, I have two columns of plots. See, this is the first one, and this is the second one, right? So you can see it over here, right? So number of columns of plots are 2. Number of rows of plots are 1, because the both plots are in a single row. In the second plot, which is the second function, this one, right? I have number of rows 2, right? Number of columns 1. So if you go to next one, see that 2 rows, 1 here, single column. All both plots are in a single column. Okay. So all you have to do is add one more plot, one first time in a single row, and sorry, I think the first time, yeah, you have to change this function to accommodate 3 columns first, and then in here 3 rows. So you are going to add one more plot to the same code. Okay, and that code is right here. So plot number 3, see that it's empty. So you'll have to fill this code. Okay, in both functions. That's all you have to do. Okay, so read through the code, and then you'll probably need to there are also some helpful comments. So RO here means R for red, and O means use a dot for um, tick marks, right? The point marks, and then likewise over here. So plot number 1, plot number 2, likewise. Okay, and plot number 3, you'll probably copy paste this code and change. And then so this again, it's a list of data, right? So in the main program, you can see that. So I got the data from census bureau and then copy into a list like this, right? So that's why we actually just learn list. Okay, so there are lists, and then we pass them to your function calls. Okay, that's it. Okay, so you'll have to add the density rank plot. I think that's what you have to. That's what missing here, right? And yeah, that's what you have to do. Okay, so this will expose you guys to plotting library in Python, right? So it's a good exercise in that sense, guys. Okay, all right. But if you still haven't done the midterm, well, this may help you to do a plot actually. Do using matplotlib library, which is the one that actual data scientists used, and or actual data analysts use in analysis and using Python. Okay, all right. It's just an attempt of exposing you. So we don't. I'm not going to test on this knowledge in the class. Okay. All right. So let's team up, guys, and do this together. Okay. So you will have to like make a copy, like go over here, file, and save a copy in Drive. That's what you have to do. Okay. So make sure you log in with school's Google account. Okay. Before you making a copy. And if you want, you can, if you want to refer a little bit more thoroughly, this there is right here the matplotlib tutorial as well. And by the way, guys, I think I have included this accidentally. We are not peer reviewing in this class anymore. Okay, so you can disregard this stuff. I'll later delete those. Okay, so I tried this one, it didn't work. So that's why peer review didn't work in previous class. So I looks like I have forgotten to remove this. So only this one. It's a discussion, so check what others have done. That's all. That's enough.